think when Tim was here, how did he not knock the microphone 100 times because he uses his hand so much?
Well, he does. You can slip an arm underneath it.
Yeah, but you know, it's like he's like this the whole time. I mean, I'm bad. I'm slightly concerned, but he's dreadful.
Some people do. Yeah.
I mean, I probably will now that I've mentioned it. Yep.
Welcome to Characters, a show where, in the dawn of AI, we are trying to better understand the human condition. Season 3 is all about our true colours, stripping away the grey and revealing what haunts, excites us and drives our purpose. I'm Jack, and as your host, I aim to provide our guests with a safe space, aware of potential judgment, to promote vulnerability, empathy and humility. On this show, we aren't focused on who our guest is, what they've achieved or their opinion on society. We've included links in the description for that. We're instead interested in how they overcome anxiety, deal with envy, or embrace forgiveness and gratitude. I really hope you can gain and grow from what our guest has taken a leap and shared for our benefit.
To what extent do you feel life is elsewhere?
Why do you always hit with something hard to begin with? Are you talking about my life or... Okay. I don't know that I do think to the extent that life is elsewhere. I think that life is here and now. Very much so.
So living in the present.
Living in the present as much as possible. As much as possible. Although recently that's become more difficult because I'm going to be 60 this year and I am obsessed with the fact I'm going to be 60.
Oh, yes.
I cannot believe it. So there is a lot of my past that's coming back and then there's a lot of the future, which there is less of kind of coming towards me as well. So definitely I'm trying even more so to live in the present and not elsewhere or another time.
But it seems like you're very conscious of it.
Yeah, right now I am. Never been before in my life, but I am now.
Okay, so when did that start?
Probably started around lockdown time when, you know, things kind of changed for a lot of people around that time. But when I turned 59, because then I knew I was going to be 60. so yeah, last August. And it's just constantly at the forefront of my mind. And I'm friends with lots of my old school friends as well. Now, I love hanging out with them, not just because they're lovely people, but because I'm the youngest. So with that crew, I am still the youngest, which is fantastic. And I rub it in all the time. But the first person to turn 60 turned 60 back in November, December. So kind of every 3 weeks there's a party for all of us lot for someone turning 60. So it's just there constantly. Unless I'm going to be the last one, but it's there. And I don't know what that means. I don't know why it worries me so much. None of the other milestone ages worried me. But 60, I don't know. It's just, it sounds old. And I don't feel any different apart from the aches and pains from when I was 30. And I don't think I act any different. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So I've got all of these things running around my head at the moment, which are very contradictory and odd, because normally it doesn't bother me. I just go day by day and I am what I am. But yeah.
Would you describe them as obstacles or?
I don't think I see anything as obstacles. It's just, it's a weird sensation. It's like there's this great big number 60 in front of me and I'm running towards it. and I don't know what's on the other side of it. Now, I know that there's nothing different the other side of it. But there is, if you see what I mean. I think it's because as a woman, when you were 60, it was retirement age. Obviously now it's 67, but that doesn't roll off so easily. That's not a big sign, is it?
Hurrah,
you know? yeah, brilliant. Not that I'll ever be able to retire anyway, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, I suppose 60 has always been a milestone in a woman's age, you know, in her life as an age. But 50 didn't bother me, 40 didn't bother me. So I don't know what it is. And I'd like to find out, but quite frankly, I haven't got time to think about it to that deep level, you know? It's just, yeah.
Well, there you go. You've taken time today. Here's an opportunity. But was there anything around 60 with your mum?
No.
Wow.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, mum's only 78 now, 79. No. It's not like, you know, there's been death in the family at 60 or illnesses at 60. No, nothing. Nothing at all.
Curious.
I think it's just crept up on me. I don't think, because I've not thought about my age before, this time it's just there and it's just kind of hanging there.
So the busyness, because, you know, a little bit about you, you're a very busy woman.
Very.
Very busy woman. You've always got, you know, lots of plates spinning. So yeah, so lack of downtime.
there's very much a lack of
process,
downtime, which at the moment is not a bad thing. So that, because I think I might go a bit stir crazy if I thought about it too much. Or maybe because I'm always talking about it, it's not so bad, if you know what I mean. Because you know that if you talk about it, it's out there, and maybe that's what it is.
Do you discuss it with your friends, this idea?
Yeah. And we all do the same.
Right.
Because it's not just my old school friends. A lot of my work colleagues from the film industry, we all started at the same time, and we're all within a year or two of each other. So we're all turning 60 at the same time. So there's even more parties. So, and they're all saying the same things, like, how did we get here? You know, 1 minute we were 23, having our very first Cannes Film Festival together, and here we are 36 years later, 37 years later, still doing it, which is something that can be quite depressing at times, still doing it. We're all still there, you know, but it's weird. It's weird.
Are you competitive?
I would say no. I'm very competitive with myself. Very competitive with myself. You know, I set myself goals and I get really cross if I don't actually meet them. But with other people, not so much. Not so much, unless I don't like them.
Why might you not like them, JJ?
I'm joking. No, I'm joking. No, I mean, look, there have been a couple of people who have, should we say, not treated me the way they should have done. And so then, I become fiercely competitive with them. But only in my own world, you know, nobody else knows about it, it's just in my own head, just to make myself feel better, to make myself feel that, you know, feel vindicated. You know, so, you know, if somebody has treated me badly in business, it's about business, not about personal. If someone's treated me badly in business, then yes, I can find myself internally being competitive with them. They know who they are, so if they're watching this, they'll know who they are.
She's looking at you.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so around, is there any envy involved in that? Is it about that at all, or
No? I've always been very lucky in that envy is not something that's really been in my jealousy, envy, none of those kind of emotions, thankfully, have been very much part of my life. I just, you know, I'm very grateful for what I've got and for what I've achieved. And I think good luck to anybody else who's also done the same, you know. So no, that's not something.
and that's always been the case?
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So what has driven you to this level of busyness and success and striving for all the things you're striving for?
I think lack of plan. That was the first thing. So I've never had a plan in my life. So everything has just happened through hard work, obviously, but everything has just happened. I've never made a plan. I think being an only child, that was one of the things, because I had to do everything for myself. I mean, look, my mum and dad were fantastic, but I left home at 15. There was a reason for that, you know. Love them dearly, couldn't possibly live with them. So I always had to pay my own bills, had to, you know, stand on my own 2 feet. And even prior to that, when I was younger, I always stood on my own 2 feet. Mum and dad both had to work, etc. So I was a proper latchkey kid. And I had to grow up very, very young for various reasons. So I've always been very independent. So that's what's kind of always driven me. And also, I like working hard and I like seeing the end results. So, and I like to work with people and have them see the end results and us all work together and, you know, achieve something. So that's kind of what drives me. It's not so much when I'm doing it on my own, even though I do work on my own. You know, there's always at the end, so like in Cannes, there's a whole big team of us doing it. You know, it's not just me. And that bit I enjoy. That's what kind of keeps me going, keeps me motivated.
And you've created all these communities, you know, basically these teams of people that come together for these events and brought all these people together to create fabulous events. Which is amazing. And that damn so different to being alone as a kid. Yeah.
But I was an only child, but I was never really alone. You know, I mean, when I was growing up, I was always surrounded by adults. There was no children around, particularly when I was growing up. But that's why I kind of grew up earlier. I mean, I remember playing card games for money. Oops, sorry, Mum. Card game machine was there for money. I always used to win, and I remember my dad's best friend used to get the right ump with me winning because I shouldn't have been playing anyway because I was about 10. So I was always used to being around adults. I didn't have a problem with talking to adults, which I think helped me later in life. And I left school at 15. I went to college for about 3 months and then left. I didn't really like it and just went out into the big wide world and started working.
Amazing. Self-doubts?
All the time.
At the time?
All the time.
But you like going out at 15 into the big wide world, like I would say for most 15-year-olds, that's a terrifying idea. So how did you manage it? Tell me about it.
I don't really think I had to I thought about it. Remember when I said I was 15, because that was when I left school, because I was 16 in the August. So everybody else in my year was already 16.
Right.
Remember, the youngest.
Youngest, yeah.
Yep. Just get that out there again. So of course I was really 16, and yeah, I mean, I'd already been working in a pub for a couple of years. Oh God, I can't believe you said. Yeah, it was a long time ago. Things were a bit different back then. Yeah. And I worked in a dry cleaners, and on a Saturday, and then they offered me a full-time job. They had a flat above it, so it was all very simple and very easy. I had a boyfriend at the time who I was with for about 4 years. He moved in, so it was all very, very easy. It wasn't anything I kind of planned or thought about. It's just, see, didn't plan it. It just happened. And the self-doubts I've had all my life. I've always had that imposter syndrome, whereas I always think I'm going to get found out at some point. I don't know, how have I got here? I really don't understand it. And especially when I was working at a film magazine, and every single person in my team, and I was the boss, had degrees. And I hadn't even been to, actually, I even failed my English O-level. I got an ungraded. So I didn't have a qualification to my name. And so quite often there, I would find myself really full of self-doubt. Not that anybody ever, when I told people about it, because I tell people quite a lot of things I probably shouldn't, they would never believe me, and they thought I was just saying it for effect. But, I had, and I still do. I still have moments of self-doubt.
It's a funny thing, isn't it, when you bring, I mean, for all intents and purposes, vulnerability into business like that. So you're saying people didn't believe you?
No, because I come across as really confident. And, look, I am pretty confident most of the time. That's one of the good things about getting older. You suddenly don't care so much. So I was going to swear them. You suddenly don't care so much.
You can swear. Oh, that's fine. Go for it.
Because I do. Yeah. That is something fabulous about especially as a woman, when you get through menopause, you really don't give a shit anymore. It's like it's very freeing. That's amazing. But having said that, I do care what people think sometimes. I do care what they think. I don't care what they think about me, but I care what they think about what I do and how I do it. For example, last year I had an intern, and I couldn't get through to her at all. And it bothered me so much. And I had huge amounts of self-doubt about my capabilities of training people. Now, I've had lots of people work with me over the years, but just this one thing, and it's still in my mind. I'm now worried about next year. So that's the self-doubt that I get, that I'm not good enough to be able to help or to be the person to be leading, which goes back to leaving school without any O-levels, which was a bit of a chip on my shoulder, even though I just lied about it back then, because you could.
Amazing. But it is a curious idea. Do you think, why do you think people didn't believe you? Is it they thought it was a kind of business, negotiation tactic or something to get people to let their guard down, or?
Yeah, or maybe they thought that I just wanted the praise or something. I mean, for example, the other day with this webinar thing that I had to do, which still makes my stomach turn and makes you shake at the thought of it, I'd be saying, I really don't like doing this. And people say, yeah, but you're great at it. And I'm like, listen, it doesn't matter if I'm great at it. It's not the point. The point is I hate doing it. And right now I feel sick. I spent the last 2 weeks not being able to sleep, and I'm not even exaggerating here. And then I had to rehearse for hours for like a 6-minute thing. Of course it was fine. And I knew it would be fine, but I wasn't, when I was saying it to people, saying, this is really worrying me, for them to say, no, it'll be fine. I was just telling them, this is really worrying me. I wasn't expecting any kind of response from it. But I think that people feel that, yeah, maybe I need that reassurance. And it's not that I need the reassurance. I'm just saying it, and I'm not saying it for a response, if that makes sense.
What do you wish people understood about you?
don't know if I'm misunderstood particularly. Probably that I'm not quite as driven as people think I am, because people think I'm very ambitious. I'm not. It's just everything that's happened has happened. Like I said, it's been through hard work. I'm not putting that to one side, but it's not. I thought, okay, I have to be in Cannes and I have to do this, and or I have to get this event. They have just come to me, and then I do them to my best ability. But yes, I'm not massively ambitious, at all. So that is something that I think people it's not even misunderstand, but think of me when it's not, that's not part of me. I don't think there is much else. I mean, maybe because I do come across always as confident. No, actually, no, even thinking about that, there's nothing that really would misunderstand. No, I don't think there's anything maybe I'll come back to that. Maybe I'll just sit in the back of my mind.
Should we go back in history? Has that always been the case? What did you? Because you say menopause was the thing. That's it all went out in the wash then,
Yeah.
and then it doesn't matter. Pre-menopause, what did you wish people understood about you?
Maybe that I wasn't always as strong as I came across as. That there was a vulnerable person in there, and that sometimes I do have something, because I am always the one that's strong and always the one that's in control. It would be nice sometimes for somebody else to kind of take that on board and take over, as it were, because it was always me that organised everything, always, for everything, whether that be holidays with friends or everything, all the time. And I don't mind doing it, but just sometimes it would be nice for somebody else to come along and say, why don't I do that? Because I go, yeah, please, here, have it. But to a point, I probably would have to meddle.
But no, why aren't you doing it this way?
Because I am, without any shadow of a doubt, a massive control freak in the nicest possible way. But only if I see something falling through the gaps. If I see somebody doing something, I just want to kind of catch what they're doing. So I will keep my distance and not say anything for as long as I can. But if I see it's really going to drop, then I will kind of just let them know that perhaps do this so that doesn't happen. Because that's for everybody's sake, not just for mine. And sometimes I should let people just do it, because, but I can't. Even if I don't like them, I would have to still step in and say, okay, let me help.
But how do people learn?
Well, I tell them.
Well, indeed. There's no room for failure.
Oh, Lordy. Yeah. In a nice way. When I talk to people nicely, I'm not someone that shouts. I never shout. And if someone shouts at me, I will burst into tears within a nanosecond. Even at my age, I burst into tears. I'll probably never speak to them again. But no, I hate being shouted at. That's really counterproductive to me. I think, if you want to get the best out of people, be nice to them, and show them. Don't tell, show.
So in what ways might you be difficult to work with or for?
You tell me.
No. It's been a delight.
Yeah. I tell you what, so a few years ago, I can't remember where I was, but somebody said they were scared, said that I was quite terrifying. And I was like, what are you talking about? Well, apparently I have this look that I give people, and they know that there's no way that they shouldn't cross me because I've just given them that look. And I had a friend that was in Portugal on holiday about a year ago, and he went to this event and met this guy and just said, I know this is completely, who worked in events. So he said to him, I know this is very unlikely, but do you know someone called JoJo? And this guy said, yeah. So my friend thought, oh no, he's just saying that. So he said, describe her to me. And he said, she's got frizzy hair and she's terrifying. Well, he also said something else, so I'm not going to go into that bit. But yeah, frizzy hair and terrifying. And my friend said, so I knew it was you. And I was like, hang on a minute. Terrifying. And you've known me for 30 years and you think I'm he went, yeah, I am. I'm always terrified of you. So I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I do. Actually, I'll tell you what someone else told me. They know, because I don't shout, that's even more terrifying. So when I go quiet and start contemplating, then they know to go and then to come back and talk to me a little bit later. And it's true, but because there's no point, like I said, there's no point in shouting at people. So I kind of internalise it or think about it. Think, is it me? Because it might just be me on a bad day. Is it them? Is it the situation? What can we do to move forward? How can we get through it? And so by the time I do talk to somebody about it, I'm very calm. And apparently that's even more terrifying. So that, I suppose, can make me quite difficult.
So is it me? So self-reflection. Have you always been capable of that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, from a very young age. I mean, it's been pointed out to me a lot over the years.
Because that's a skill, right? That's like an emotionally intelligent skill of looking inwards and going, oh, hang on a minute, before I put this on them.
Yeah, and I mean, and from a really young age, this has happened. Very, very young age. Yeah.
How so? How were you blessed with that, do you think? Is that experience or is that built in?
Yeah, I mean, look, to get really deep, but I was sexually abused as a child. And I remember feeling very sorry for the person who did it for me when he got found out, and rationalising it in my own head. And I can't remember where I heard it. I think I know where it's from, but I'm not 100% sure. But somebody's saying, you know, obviously, in order to be able to move through life, you have to analyse things. Bearing in mind, I was about 7 or 8 when this was said. Analyse things, and you have to put things into perspective and see things from other people's points of view. And you also have to learn to forgive. You don't always forget, but you have to learn to forgive, because otherwise things will eat you up, always. And like I said, I can't exactly remember who it was. I can see them saying it, but I can't remember who it was. And I remember thinking at the time, I didn't understand it particularly, but then I did when everything came out with this particular person. And I remember then on the day when I told my mum about it, I remember kind of saying to her, is he going to get into trouble? No, get into trouble. But I was like, is he going to get into trouble? I don't want to get into too much trouble. And of course she was furious, and my dad was furious, and it was all furious, and it was all horrible. But I remained calm throughout the whole thing. And my mum has even said to me since, she couldn't believe how mature I was about the whole thing. But in my head, it was this person saying that all the time. You know, that's what I kept going back to. And so, you know, that was obviously a big thing to happen when you're young. And I was 11 when I finally told. So from that, nothing else has seemed as bad, quite frankly. So, you know, it's much easier, I suppose, for me, strangely, to be able to deal with those things, because I dealt with something much worse very young. So, you know, something petty, you know, it might feel big at the time, but it's really not. And I kind of know that. So, so somehow I'll sort it out, talk to them and get over it and move on.
Wow. Exceptionally level-headed. What are you not level-headed about? What makes you angry? And how do you vent?
Again, do you know what? This is really... I never used to get angry, ever. That is... Just getting older, I've got angry. Again, menopause, you know. Then suddenly I turned into Mrs. Angry overnight. On my poor boyfriend at the time. He was very brave. He actually...
Self-reflection.
We were in the kitchen, and one morning, James O'Brien's on the radio, and he said to me... I can't remember what I was doing, but I was slamming the coffee cup down or something. And he said to me, do you think you might be menopausal? And I screamed, no, I'm not. And I thought, oops, maybe I am. And at that point, James O'Brien said, I'm just about to do a phone-in about perimenopause. So I shouted at the radio. I said, what do you know? You're a man. And I thought, oh, dear God, there is something wrong with you. So I went upstairs, locked myself in my office and listened to he did a 2-hour show on it. And it turned out his wife was going through perimenopause. And my eyes were opened about it, because I suddenly realised I wasn't alone. And all these strange feelings I've been having, because I hadn't even thought about it. You know, I was 45. And of course, I should have thought about it, but I hadn't even thought about it. And I actually felt like an alien had come down and taken me away, because this person that was in my body was not the person that I had grown up with. I suddenly didn't want to socialise, whereas before I used to be out all the time. I used to get really angry about the most ridiculous things. I had really bad brain fog, which I've still got, nothing I can do about that now, but really bad brain fog. I remember doing a presentation to a group of people, and halfway through it, apart from the sweating and everything else that goes on, thinking I have no idea where I am. I don't know what's coming out of my mouth, and I don't know who these people are. It wasn't. It was a nanosecond, but it felt like forever. And you have all these things that happen to you then, and so that was kind of the first few years of me feeling angry about anything, and it was ridiculous things. But I knew then it was what it was related to. It was hormonal. It was related. But now I get really angry about politics, which I never used to. I'm sure a lot more people feel more angry about them now, and injustice. I've always been angry about injustice, but not in that fiery way. When I get angry, I get determined to try and do something about something, as opposed to, because when I think of anger, I think of somebody screaming at somebody. And that's my idea of anger. So whereas my anger is far more kind of, probably scary, far more kind of internal, but makes me determined to do something about something. So if I get riled up about something, I want to rectify it, or to find a way to rectify it. I'm a big resolver. I always want to resolve things.
This is amazing. In what areas are you happy to be good enough?
None. None.
A constant battle.
Yep.
Seeking perfectionism. Tell me about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just who I am. It's just ingrained in me. It's just, whatever I do, I just want to do better next time. And I always say, it doesn't matter. But even as I'm saying it, I know I don't mean it, and I know I don't believe it. Yes, and even things that, I do day in, day out, I still always find a way to do them different. Maybe not always bad, but a way to do them differently, so that maybe there's a slightly different outcome with them. But, a nicer one, a better one, whatever. Not a worse one, obviously. But, yeah, I'm always striving in everything to learn who I am, to grow. Although I am really stubborn, so I very rarely change my mind. But when I do, I'm quite. I don't even mind saying I'm wrong. I don't have a problem with saying I'm wrong if I firmly believe I'm wrong.
Are you good at apologising?
Yeah, very, very. And I will even apologise if I don't mean it, if it means a means to an end. Yeah. So I can be incredibly sycophantic.
How does that work with your injustice complex?
Well, it's because I'm thinking about an event. I'm thinking of, not in my personal life, but for work. I don't have much of a personal life. Everything is about work. So, if I'm working with somebody and they're driving me absolutely insane, instead of what I would want to do, which is be honest and explain to them why they are, because I know that I've only got a finite amount of time to get through this and for the whole team to get through it, I will be whatever they need me to be to get to the end. And then afterwards, we'll have a sit down, we'll have a conversation, I'll explain to them why they've just driven us all completely nuts.
And it can't work like this.
Yeah. Yeah, but for me, it's a means to an end. So, and I can just ban it all down. There's one person I worked with recently who actually turned around to me and said, "You're always so calm. I would really like to know what's going on in your head at the moment." I went, "No, you absolutely wouldn't." And she went, "Okay, you're probably right." Because if I told her there and then, it would all have gone to shit. So it was best that I kept it inside. And we got through it and everything was fine. And then we had a debrief. And I don't think she's spoken to me since.
And all the while hoping that there's going to be somebody who's going to come out of the woodwork and take some of the load. Yeah.
Although actually, in a work situation, not particularly.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm.
So that's more personal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So, I'm assuming that's your friendship circle.
Yeah, and you know what? They would say I won't allow them to. But what happens a lot of the time is people will offer something that doesn't help. So I will say no, thank you to that because it doesn't actually help. And it's just because I am capable of doing the other things, and because I always have. Nobody thinks to suggest otherwise. That's all. If I ask, then they would probably do it.
Do you ask?
Sometimes, but only recently, only in the last few years. Prior to that, I didn't ask. I used to say that's a bit of a weakness to ask for help. But then I learned that actually it's not. It's a strength to ask for help. So you're always learning or trying to. I mean, look, I'm nowhere near perfect. I still don't ask when I should do. And I isolate. So if I'm not feeling great, I isolate. I don't want people around me because I need that time to figure out what it is. And sometimes that can take hours, sometimes it can take weeks. But that's the only way I can do it. It's not, I can't go out and be myself with others when if I've got something I need to resolve. I need to just
figure out.
Yeah.
No, I'm nodding along because I know exactly what you mean. You know, and you've articulated it perfectly because it is all encompassing when you've got this wart, for all intents and purposes, that you can't put it anywhere.
Yeah.
Sharing the load is, I mean, nigh on impossible. You know, and the weakness idea is. It's terrifying to think, you know, if I share this with somebody, then I'm useless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically. And perhaps part of this show is me, for all intents and purposes, trying to figure that out in a way. It's wonderful to be able to do. And share it, you know, for those who inevitably have the same issue.
Yeah.
Because we're not alone, eh?
No, absolutely. And none of what we're talking about is exclusive to anybody, you know, but it's just because we don't talk about it all the time. I mean, look, I actually feel for men that, you know, for many years they weren't able to kind of talk about their feelings. At least that is becoming less of an issue now, and that there are more groups around and it's less of a taboo. But I know it's still more difficult. But, you know, so as a woman, that's one thing we've had that we can do. We are able to chat with our friends and, you know, but there are some things, that you can't. Because also you don't even know what it is. You know that there's an issue, but you don't really know what that issue is. And also the last thing you want is for people to start saying, well, why don't you try this? Or why don't you try that? Because quite frankly, I just want to punch him in the face then. And I'm not a violent person, but you know what I mean? It's like, yes, of course I've thought of that. Thank you. But yes, I don't want you to problem solve here. I just actually want to do this and just spew it out, and you to kind of just go there. That's fine, you know. Be as patronising as you like. That's what I want. Just stop giving me solutions because I've tried them. You know, or if I want a solution, I will ask. You know, what do you think? You know, how can I get over this? But yeah, people can't help do that to offer loose. I find myself doing it. I actually sometimes really bite my tongue to stop myself from doing it because I think no, they probably don't want a solution. They just want to vent.
Active listening.
Yeah.
Big skill. Big skill. Absolutely, and just let people let it out, and because the growth comes in that, you know, if you solve it for them, back to your leadership idea and failure and all these things, wanting to step in, you know, so what are you going to do about it, rather than do this about it? You know, I think that's just a fabulous idea because it does then allow people to go through it, have to engage brain and figure it out like you do.
Yeah, and it's always, I do figure it out, but I'll get to a point where it's not such a problem and that I can then move forward, and then perhaps I can talk to somebody about it and ask for their opinion on what I should be doing. But you know, when it's there, when it's just hanging there, you know, I just need to either block it out, get on with work, which is probably what I do, or, you know, when I have those downtimes, just figure out what is it. Because it's not always the problem that you think it is, it's something else. And so that's what I always want to get to the crux of, because if you're just kind of dealing with what's in front of you and not going deep, then you're just going to keep hitting what's in front of you in different ways, in different formats. So I try to figure out what is it, you know, and why do I feel this way? And is it them or is it me? That's the other thing. I always trying to try and find out if I've got a dispute with someone, is it them or is it me? It's normally them, obviously.
Suffice to say, JoJo Dye is in the room. Like, everything's going to be fine.
Well, you know, dear Lord, God, that would be good, wouldn't it?
So just had an interesting thought. You know, this is all about going a bit deeper, and there's probably, certainly in events, and when you're working with people, you don't have time to go deeper to figure out what's the real cause of this person either behaving this way or this conflict between us or whatever. So it has to retain this sort of level of working relationship I guess.
Yeah.
Do you ever get frustrated with that? The idea that you're working with somebody, but you can't get to the root cause of the issue, which is either, as I say, something about the relationship because we clash, and that's because this person, really struggles with X, Y, and Z. Talking about learning and talking about teaching people and creating teams and community and all of this, is that ever something you've sort of explored to try and help with management and leadership and try and just get the fundamentals of a relationship and a person working a bit better so that it can all be a bit more fluid? Or is it just about putting fires out?
No, I mean, over the years, I haven't had very many issues with working with people. So that's why they stand out when they do. So like this intern last year, it really stands out for me because that's not happened before. I've had some that just are not particularly interested or invested, and that's something different. This one was, off the scale. And with regards to clients and work, there's not that many, again, that I have had an issue with because I tend to try to get to know them so they're not just,
Sure.
not just the clients. So we go out for a few drinks now we have Zooms, but before we used to go out for a few drinks and get to know somebody and find out about them and what it is, because that makes it then much easier for me to work with them if I know them a bit better. So I've always done that. And also, I don't get that many new clients. I know it sounds like, most of my clients in some shape or form, I've known for a very long time. And if I haven't known them, they've been recommended to me by somebody. So they're going to be of the same kind of, they're going to have the same, well, not always, actually, that's not true. I've just thought of somebody. People popping into my head now.
No, yeah.
But, because we've been recommended, they will know a bit about me if I don't know much about them. So they will. And I would imagine the person who recommended them wouldn't recommend somebody they think I'm not going to get on with, because that would just be disastrous for them. Because I would come back to them and remind them that they introduced me. No, I wouldn't. No, I would. I actually would. But in a very.
I'll have you know, just
well,
so.
The thing is that this person who I just mentioned before, who I worked with, who drove me insane. She was introduced to me by another client who now just apologises every time we speak to each other. But we speak to each other a lot. I have to say to her, no, please stop apologising. It doesn't matter. I could have said no. And I should have said no, because I have really good intuition. And on the very first time I had a conversation with her, and there's two other people that I can think of, I said no to her. And I find it difficult to say no to events, but I said no. And then she asked me again, and she asked me again, and I just got worn down. And then I got some colleagues involved who are still not forgiving me. And so suddenly it was like, okay, there's more of us to spread the pain, so let's do it. But on the other two, again, I knew from the minute I said yes to them that it was going to be a problem. And so what I'm trying to do now is learn to say no, but stick to the no. So I said no, but I didn't stick to it. So now my challenge is, if I get that feeling again, and it is a real feeling, it's like, this isn't going to work. There's something you've just said that doesn't sit right with me. So you've said this now, early on, it's going to get worse. And I was right on each of the occasions. I didn't like to be right on those occasions. I wanted to be wrong. Because I do like to be right, obviously.
But saying no comes with other caveats, which is less busyness, more time to ruminate over things that, might blindside you, like this big 6-0. So I guess that all feeds into not wanting to say no either.
Well, actually, the big thing that not wanting to say no is because I've got a bloody mortgage to pay.
Oh, right.
So that's the big thing.
Of course.
And I have a big chunk of money that I need to pay back in 2 years and 9 months it is now. So that's my big motivator right now, is not even the worrying about being 60.
I mean,
but that also is something. So trying to remortgage, because now I'm coming up to 60. So, people keep telling you, oh, no, you're too old. And you're like, okay, thanks a lot, but it is practical. That's practicalities of it. That's not just somebody telling you you're old. It's real. You can only get a mortgage for another 10 years or so. So yeah, at the moment, that is my big motivator, is to just make sure that I can pay as much of my mortgage off as possible, because what I'd like to do is move to the seaside. And that, my forever home will end up being at the seaside, opposite the sea. I don't want to be further back, opposite the sea, because that's what I've always thought I would do. So that's my big motivator at the moment.
It I don't know. It makes me sad, because it makes me think that all the other sorts of question marks over motivations around why it's difficult to say no. It does most of the time just come back to money.
It is seriously down to money, because people say, oh, you won't retire because you love it. It's like, no, I won't retire because I can't. It's not even an option. I would like to earn enough money to be able to say no. And there still will be some jobs I'll say no to, because I've got to think of my sanity, and I've also got to think of my team's sanity. So I couldn't possibly say yes to this particular person again as a team. We can work with her individually, but not as a team. And there'll be some other jobs I know. I mean, there's one that came through this week, and I just kind of thought, okay, all the hours I'm going to have to put into this, is it worth it financially? No, which is actually not a bad thing. So. Whereas before I'd have just said yes. Because it looks like a nice event, it'll look good on the CV. I don't care anymore about the CV. I've got enough good things on there.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes irrelevant.
Yeah.
But again, this you talk about sanity, another word for mental health. Mental health just is pushed to one side for finance. But again, you're thinking about everybody else's sanity. As well, which is very nice and very leadery, but it strikes me that it is still, with success, you're then allowed to, you sort of then, capitalism effectively, I don't want to go too far into this, but it pushes it away, because you have to effectively earn that. To have the time to be able to prioritise sanity over money.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, we figure things out. There we are. But it's I don't know. That makes me sad.
But I remember talking to a young filmmaker once that I was working with, because in my previous life, even when I'm doing events, I used to do marketing for Ealing Studios. So for 7 lovely years, I worked half the time with Ealing Film Studios, or the sales side of it, and half the time with Abu Dhabi Film Festival. And they were the best 7 years of my life. I had such good fun. But we worked, my favourite film was St. Trinian's, which was a great film. But we had, we had a lot of young filmmakers that we would talk to all the time. And I remember talking to one who kept saying, I can't possibly do that, because, it's bad, it's bad as usual, or something you say to me. And I'm like, oh, God, dear God. And I just said to him, what you need to do is you need to do something to earn the money to be able to do the things you want to do. So take this one, it might be commercial crap, as you call it. However, it's not a bad film. It's a good film, or it could be a good film. If you make it, it could be a good film. And then you will be able to have the money to be able to do the things you want to do. But you'll also have the kudos to be able to do the things you want to do. But you need to be able to get to that point, I'm not sure you listened to me, because I haven't really heard much of him since. But who's she?
Yeah, do you have that then? The heart-led events that you really are passionate about versus the commercial ones?
Yeah. I mean, I was working on, I've had to not do it for sanity, which is really odd because it's for a mental health charity. But it was a wonderful little project called Shout, which is still going. And I help when I can, but I can't do too much on that. I'm also on the board of the Irish Film and TV UK. And because I just love Irish films, and I love Ireland, and I love the Irish accent. In fact, I had an Irish boyfriend just because of his accent once. But
did he know that?
Yeah, because I told him.
Just talk to me. I don't care. Just talk to me.
It's all right. I mean, God, this was years ago. So it was, when telephones had wires, it was that long ago. And he lived in Dublin and I lived in England, and so we spent most of the time on the phone, quite frankly. So I just used to listen to him a lot. Bless him. But yeah, that's a volunteering position, because I do I really do champion Irish film. I think it's great. And but also I remember saying jokingly when they asked me to be on the board, if it means I can get an Irish passport. And everyone looked horrified when I said it. I said, I am joking, but actually no. Because anything but, I would like an Irish passport right now, or any other country, frankly. Yeah.
I know what you mean about the Irish accent. My ex-partner too is Northern Irish.
Yeah.
Just beautiful.
Yep.
Beautiful. Wow. This is phenomenal. Have a sip of coffee. I'm just going to, because I do my best to retain these questions. And then, oh, well done, mate. Kept it in. Okay. Yes. Absolutely. What makes you feel shy?
This. Being in front of a camera. That makes me angry.
Well, you're doing well.
That makes me shy. Or being on panels, which goes back to the imposter syndrome. Because if I'm on a panel, and especially now, because I do have really bad brain fog, apart from menopause, which I think I might be through. I hope I'm through it anyway. Bloody hell, I hope I'm through it. But I also have a really bad back, for which I have to take medication. And I also have ME, which is myalgic encephalomyelitis. Can't believe I can say that now. Which, when you combine those three, I just call them the 3 M's. So I have severe brain fog. Now, I'm all right because it's a morning. But come the afternoon, I can't remember anything. I can't remember my name. I really cannot remember names of people or films or places. Dates and times I'm all right with, which is handy because one of my teammates, Tim, can't ever remember dates and times. So put us together and we're okay.
Handy in events. Yeah.
But so the idea of being on a panel, and having to answer questions off the cuff, that makes me shy. Well, it petrifies me. But that makes me shy. But because of those reasons, because I can talk about can till the cows come home, and I've been doing it for 36 years. I'm doing the members club for 14. I can talk about that, and I'm knowledgeable, and I'm very comfortable in my knowledgeability. But so I could do that. But then if somebody asked me something specific about a year or an event that I did, I would not be able to remember the name of it. So I'll make myself look an idiot. So that makes me shy. I mean, years ago, I used to be shy about meeting boyfriends' parents, but, not anymore. Probably not live if I had a boyfriend.
And what about sadness? What makes you sad?
People passing,
Wow.
Yeah, that makes me sad. I mean, obviously that makes everybody sad.
What are you sad about right now?
Well, see, as soon as I said that, I remember my dad passed away 3 years ago.
Oh, bless.
And also a really good friend of mine passed away just before Christmas. And then this week, a couple of days ago, I just found out that my old boss, who frankly is the reason I do what I do, passed away 2 days ago. And I hadn't seen him for about a year, or been in touch with him for about a year. So that makes me sad. And in fact, I had made a pledge to myself over Christmas that I was going to get in touch with people that I hadn't been in touch with for a while because, I don't see my mum, I don't see my friends enough. But that, I used to be really good at keeping everyone together and, organising events that everyone would get together once or twice a year, and I just haven't because I haven't had the time. And so I've made a pledge to myself, and he was high on my list. So it makes me sad that I've missed that opportunity, but it's also now driven me. So on the way here, I was doing a mental in my head, because it's before 4 o'clock in the afternoon, remembering all the names. And so I do have to write them all down to all these people that I really do need to get back in touch with, because they're constantly in my head. And Facebook and Instagram, okay, brilliant, because at least I'm in contact a little bit there. But, recently more and more people are moving away from social media. So therefore, it will be me making an effort again. I mean, they could always make the effort, obviously. But I feel that it's me that has stopped doing it. And I was always the one that instigated it. So therefore people just expect that, don't they? And I don't mind that. But that's made me a bit sad.
Well, perhaps all those no's that you're going to be putting out will give you some space.
Well, no, because all that'll happen is the things that I'm doing, I will just do more of. So, the events that I'm working on will just get bigger.
Well, it was a nice idea.
Yeah, it was a nice idea. But I know what I'm, because I have to fill space. It is that, filling space.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do in my diary, I do cross out. Oh, well, I used to when I used to have a diary. I used to do it on my phone now. Literally cross out and write sleep. Because I do need to sleep with the ME. I need to sleep a lot. But just because otherwise I'd put something in every day. And I need to have days when I've got nothing in there. So I just cross it out just to give myself some time. And all that time would be to catch up on things I haven't done. But at least I would have the time to catch up on things I haven't done, which at the moment I don't think I am. I'm chasing my tail constantly.
Bless. Bless. Is there anything you regret doing? Is there anything you regret not doing due to fear?
I don't know. Is there something I've missed out on? No, fear hasn't stopped me from doing things. That's the thing. I mean, when I've said no to panels, I've never regretted that ever. No, I don't think I've ever said no to something because I was fearful of doing it. In fact, most of the time I would say yes and then check myself, but do it anyway. So I don't think there is anything that I've regretted there. I mean, if there is any regrets, it's of missed opportunities. So things I see and think, oh, I should do that, but don't do it. Don't kind of grab the ball by the horn. Or I've always been somehow at the forefront of something happening, but never really kind of, taken the ball and done it myself and just kind of let other people do things, if you know what I mean. Because, every time I've wanted to do something like starting companies, I've always just gone ahead and done it, which a lot of that was down to that guy that I was just talking about, my old boss, John. Because while I was working with him, I set up my events company, but I was allowed to do it whilst I was working with him. He gave you this freedom to be who you were. And I got a contract for that event that was the best event that Canada's ever seen, the Lord of the Rings, which I shouldn't have got. It was just me. It was me and one other person. And there was massive agencies that went for it. So I was never scared of going for stuff, even if, we didn't get it. But having said that, we used to get most of what we went for. So I'm not sure that there is anything in that side of me that I regret. There's some ex-boyfriends. Yeah, let's not go through them.
That you regret not doing due to fear?
Yeah. I honestly can't think of anything. I'm sure there is something in there, but I probably blocked it. Because that's how my brain would work. It's like, well, you know what, you missed that, so get over it and take the next one.
You don't let things fester?
No.
At all?
No.
And that's an incredible skill.
No.
Forgiveness, move on, looking ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it all comes back to that person years ago who said what they said. Because what's the point? Anger and jealousy just eats you, nobody else. It doesn't affect anybody else. Guilt is the same thing. If you feel guilty about something, it doesn't affect anybody else, only you. So they're kind of useless, really. What's the point of them? Get rid of them if you can. And I suppose it's easy for me because I haven't really had them to deal with in the first place. Maybe if I had and had to go to therapy for it, it'd be different. But I'm my own therapist.
Sure.
A lot of people won't talk about, even to their friends or their peers, they won't talk about the things that, that they've got wrong with them or that worry them or they have the fear of, because they feel, I remember, I went on first dates, TV program first dates. Oh my God, it was a disaster. Fun. It was the best day I've had in a very long time, but it was a disaster. And the amount of people said, oh, you shouldn't do that. And I'm like, why not? And they're like, yeah, but somebody might see you. And I'm like, yeah, that's the point. It's a TV show. So like I said, I don't like being camera. This is different because you can't see the camera, so it's different. But yeah, the amount of people that said, oh, it could harm your career. I'm like, I am 50. I think I was 55 or something. I don't think it's actually going to harm my career now. And why would it? In fact, it was hilarious because all these people suddenly, they never aired it. They aired clips of it. And the first clip, I was asleep. And I woke up to all of these people from on Facebook. And I just saw you on first dates. Well, I was. I was absolutely petrified. They put it out without telling me, but it was just a clip. But it's suddenly all these people, and they're people I hadn't seen for years in a business, from a business perspective, who were suddenly in touch with me because they'd seen me on first dates, and they weren't saying, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that," But people are scared that they're going to. I mean, I'm thinking of one person in particular who works in PR, and she's like, "No, but you really shouldn't be doing that because it's bad for your brand." I'm like, "Oh dear God," I'm over my brand now. My brand is me, and this is what I do. So if you don't know that about me by now, then tough, really. But so there are people. I mean, I was even told not to tell people. I was even told I shouldn't tell people I have ME because. And actually, at first, I felt like that too, because I thought if I did, people would either have that image of ME as they used to have years ago, the yuppie flu image, and think, well, she's just faking it or whatever. Or they wouldn't want to give me the work because they'd be frightened that I wouldn't be well enough to do it. And I get the second one. I get the second fear. But I run on adrenaline. So, and it's when the adrenaline drops that I have a crash. So if I'm doing an event, I'm going to be fine because I have the adrenaline to keep me going. And if not, I have coffee and tequila. So,
But I mean, to sum all of that up in a word, it is vulnerability, and it is. I'm going on a date with a person. It's being broadcast to the world. That's a vulnerable situation to put yourself in because you're going to be judged about how you are on said date and would I date her and all these questions. That's the point in the show, right? I mean, I'm not. I don't engage or watch any of those kind of programs, but I understand and respect the makers for putting their finger on and sharing an element of humanity that we don't get to see other than from our own perspective, from our own two eyes. You're being allowed to see into somebody's. And I think my bone to pick with it is that it can sometimes verge on exploitative because of the people they choose, and it becomes laughing at rather than laughing with.
Yeah.
That's why I don't engage with it. But I think the vulnerability, as I said, the vulnerability side and seeing how other people navigate this very tricky thing is wonderful.
Yeah.
So long as the heart of it is in the right place, and I think it has to be a balance, sadly, because perhaps the more the more questionable shows, the more questionable episodes that they put together, perhaps those are perhaps the ones that I don't know the numbers that are most successful or most watched.
With first dates, funnily enough, it's the ones where they're successful, where the show's at peak, and not the ones where they're not. Now, obviously, there are ones that are not, which are disastrous and are hilarious. But I mean, from my perspective, I didn't get drunk, so that was one thing, because they do put you in the cream, and there is drink there, but you're an adult, you choose to drink or you don't, and I chose not to. By the end of it, I wish I had. But I did on the date, but, not beforehand, because I was in there for like 4 hours waiting in the green room. But, there were some other people who were on the bit that I did who did get really drunk, and you're like, this is not going to turn out well for you, is it? Particularly. And there was one girl who the next day woke up, because we did a little WhatsApp group, and she woke up and she said, I want them to take that off. And I went, no, you're not going to do that. You signed your life away, And I said, you weren't that bad. But then when she sent me her clip, I went, okay, I get it. But they never showed any of hers because actually she was pretty awful. But for first dates, they do try to kind of keep it kind of classy, if you can have any kind of show like that classy. And they do want people to get on. I mean, they failed miserably with me, but they invited me back, but I couldn't ever find time to get back, funnily enough. And then COVID hit. But, some of the others, I was actually asked to go on the second Big Brother.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's something that I regret. There you go. I knew there was something in there, because obviously the second one, it still wasn't exploitative the way it is now. It was still very much a social experiment, which is what it started out as. But what was really funny is all I kept thinking was, I don't want to be on the front page of The Sun. I don't know who I thought I was, that people would want to read about me. But, that is what went through my head. That's why I didn't do it. Because, there were things, obviously, in my past that, I've already talked about. I will talk openly about everything and anything. But yeah, I that was exactly why I said no.
Okay, tell me about only child, self-proclaimed, fact. So tell me about your experience of and history upon self-reflection of self-importance, like putting yourself on a pedestal in a way.
I don't think I did that for a
No.
long time. For a very, very long time. I was never top of my own tree, as it were. I never used to think about me first. And I don't mean that in a, kind of, I always put others first. It wasn't like that at all. I just didn't think I was that important in the grand scheme of things. And so therefore I didn't always look after myself the way that I should, or treat myself with the best of respect. That came, probably in the last 10 years, really. Yeah. Because I also used to get a lot of worth from my friends, my colleagues, and my boyfriend. And I remember, God, I've forgotten about this. I remember once when I was, everything was going wrong with the business. I'd actually sold it to somebody and was still running it. So nobody really knew that I'd sold it, and it was part of a bigger picture. And they were running it into the ground. And so I bought it back for £1 on April Fool's Day. Worst thing I ever did, because they then all disappeared and, liquidated and ran back off to their various countries. And I was left with a massive, and I mean massive, PAYE bill, which they hadn't declared in the books that they showed me. Nothing I can do now. And various other bills. I mean, it was like 300 grand. And, this was, God, I was 38, something like that. Yeah, I was about 38. So it's a while ago now. What I should have done was I should have just gone back. I should have just declared bankruptcy. But I didn't. I paid every penny back. Every penny. And as I'm saying it now, see, here's another regret. I can't believe I did this. I paid every penny back, apart from to one person who was fabulous. It was a PR company, and she actually called me. I owed them some money. I had a desk in their office for a while, and she said, "I don't want you to pay this bill." And I'm like, "No, it's on this thing." And she said, "No, I don't want you to pay it." So very nice, a bit of kindness there that I needed at the time. But yeah, I paid everybody back on that, and then closed the business on my 40th birthday. Wow. And I had my 40th birthday party. I don't remember it at all. I was absolutely, completely on another planet.
Yeah.
I remember trying to climb into the DJ booth and falling down the stairs. I was a disaster, but it was because I'd closed the business that day. And everyone was like, "Well, you know what? You're so worried about it." And my whole worth was in that business, as far as I was concerned. I thought that people would judge me badly, that people wouldn't respect me anymore, etc. Of course, it wasn't the case at all, to be honest. But I had to isolate, and I isolated for a while. I actually left the industry for a while, and was selling aloe vera products, which I still have, and I still work with, and they're fabulous. They actually saved me, to be fair. That business saved me because I lost all self-worth, all the little that I had. And then I got a call from a good friend, Natalie, who had just started working at Ealing, and said, "Would you like to come and work at Ealing Studios and do our marketing?" And I said, "I've never done marketing. I don't know what." She said, "You do it all the time." And so I went to work with her, and then that's when I started to believe in myself and having self-importance, and started to look after myself properly, mentally as well as physically. But when I look back, it was an awful time, my 40th and around there, and having to close the business. But it was also a new start, if you know what I mean, because I had people working with me then. So I had a team. I was always worried about paying the team at the end of the month. And at one point I was paying them off my credit cards. It was just awful. And then one of the girls that worked with me, she tried to sue me because I hadn't paid her enough redundancy. And she was a friend. That really hurt. That really hurt. I remember when she left, I shut the front door and I just crumpled into a heap and just cried for hours. And it was, the next kind of 6 months were just awful, trying to dig myself out of all of that. I was on benefits, and I didn't want to tell anybody. I had a car, my fabulous Audi convertible that I'd had for years. It was very old, but I couldn't afford to put petrol in it. But I had to go and sign on every other week. But I'd sign on, I'd park the car around the corner because I didn't want people to see the car and get the wrong impression. No, it was a bucket of a car. It was really old, but it was still a sports car. And I didn't want them to tell me I had to sell it because it was the one thing I still had. I didn't want to let it go. So yes, thanks to Forever Living products and Natalie, I got my life back on track. But that was an awful moment. And all that was my self-worth and self-importance and low esteem, like very kind of low self-esteem.
Wow. And do you think if it all went south again, you'd have the same reaction with your self-esteem?
No, because also I had my flat and I managed to hang on to my flat. I don't know how, but I managed to hang on to it. And at the time it was my home, and now it's bricks and mortar. Do you know what I mean? If it means that I can just move on and move away quickly, then I will. But that's age and maturity and having now a little bit more self-worth. Because like I say, then I just thought that everybody would just see me as an absolute failure. Whereas, we all fail. But the idea is then you get up and you carry on, which is what I did. So I was proud of myself for that. But it was, God, it was a tough time. I'd forgotten how bad it was.
Sorry. JoJo, this is amazing. I've got one more for you. Do you feel you live an ordinary or an extraordinary life?
For me, it's ordinary, but I know that I'm really lucky, and it is extraordinary. I mean, who goes to Cannes every year? Who goes to, I was going to say LA, but at the moment that's not such a great place to go, bless them. Who has worked in Abu Dhabi at a film festival, who's met all these wonderful people that I've met and worked with over the years, and the amount of friends I've got is quite incredible, and they are friends, they're not just acquaintances. I've got really kind of good, close friends from years ago, from recently. I collect people. I like collecting people. I'm lucky. I have an extraordinary life. Yeah, very much so.
Superstar. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming, and I really appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
It's been amazing, and as I say, no doubt there will be somebody out there in combined circles that goes, wow, I never knew.
Thank you for watching Characters. I hope you were able to gain and grow from our guests' vulnerability. To discover more characters, please subscribe to support the show and allow us to share more of our true colours. Here's the latest episode, or one YouTube has picked for you. Enjoy.